Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. We are about to have quite a big rainstorm here in Northern California. So I am hanging out in my office today, this afternoon, and it's actually perfect because I've been meaning to share this concept that I've been thinking about, this gardening concept with you all. And that concept is best bang for your buck plants. Now, I've talked about this before when I've planted different plants in my garden. And sometimes there are just certain plants that I just feel are really great bang for your buck. You buy one plant and it grows so fast, so quickly, it blooms for so long, it makes such a great impact. The impact per dollar that you spent on that plant is just such a great bang for your buck. And I think that this concept works really well across a number of different situations. One, for my own, I'm doing a complete renovation makeover on my back garden. And so I have a lot of blank space, and I could plant some plants that are going to take a couple years to kind of fill in. And I will be planting some of those, but I want to fill in with some plants that are just basically going to go boom, right? And fill out and be colorful and give me that immediate impact that I want in my new space. This also is kind of the same if you've moved into a new property, you've bought your house, maybe it's a new construction house where, Jason and I, we bought a new construction house once where it was just dirt absolutely everywhere. And the inside of the house looks beautiful, the actual house looks beautiful, but the landscape needs a little bit of help, and you've already spent all your money on your house, so you don't have much money to spend on your landscape. Bang for your buck will definitely help you with that. Another way is if you're kind of new to gardening and you're not sure how much time and effort you want to spend on your garden, just getting a few plants that make really big impact in your garden can help. And then the last thing I wanted to say is if you're thinking about selling your house this year, we all know how important landscaping is for selling your house and making your house look good. And of course, you don't want to spend too much money on landscaping. So bang for your buck plants is really going to help you in that situation. So whether you fit in one of those or three of those different type of situations, this video might be for you, where we're going to talk about best bang for your buck plants. But today we're just going to talk about annuals. So I feel like annuals get a bad rap. I feel like annuals get a rap that it's a waste of money. It only lasts 1 year. It's why would you bother planting annuals when you can plant something like a perennial or a shrub? But take a step back and think about what annuals can actually do for your garden. Annuals are bred to bloom all season long. So the minute you plant them in the ground until the minute your first frost happens, you're going to get blooms out of that annual, and it's really going to make a really big impact in your garden. So maybe the cost of a lunch out or something like that, you can buy a couple plants, plant them in your garden, and enjoy it absolutely all season long. And now the concept of bang for your buck plants isn't about buying less expensive plants. It's about buying fewer plants that make a bigger impact. So if you go to the garden center and you have to buy a whole tray of the 6-pack petunias or 6-pack impatiens or something like that, it might cover some area of your garden, but it's not going to make a huge impact. Whereas if you go to the garden center and you buy one Super Tunia Vista bubblegum, which we all know is basically the ultimate bang for your buck plant, that one Super Tunia Vista bubblegum is going to cover more area than the 12-pack of the black, 6-pack generic plants. It's going to make such a bigger impact. It's one plant that you have to worry about, one plant that you have to water and fertilize, and only one plant that you have to buy. So you can kind of see my concept here of bang for your buck plants. You're not spending you're not buying the cheaper version that you can get at the garden center. You're buying less of the good version, the Super Tunia Vista bubblegum version. So let me talk a little bit about the criteria that I had for bang for your buck plants. And I would love for you all to contribute in the comment section. I'm also going to do a perennial video in this series, and then also a shrub video in this series. So I am in Northern California, zone 9B. So I know my hot zone. I know hot zones and I know what works well, but I would love to hear what works well for all of you in a little bit lower zones or even the higher zone, zone 10 or something like that. But my criteria for a good bang for your buck plants is it has to be something that grows quickly. It grows big and it grows quick. I love roses. I love hydrangeas. I love those beautiful plants that can take a couple years to really fill in and make the most impact in your garden. But that's not what I'm talking about for bang for your buck. I want something that's going to make an impact. You plant it in April, and by June, you're really noticing how beautiful that plant looks. So it's got to grow wide, it's got to grow large, and it's got to grow quick. Next criteria I had is I want it to bloom for months, not just weeks. We're not talking weeks here. We're talking months and months and months. I want you to plant this plant and then have blooms absolutely all season long, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, I do have to say it's not going to come without work, right? We all know how important fertilizing is, especially with annuals. So you're going to have to fertilize, you're going to have to water, you're going to have to take care of this plant, but it's going to give you the opportunity to have blooms in your garden absolutely all season long, not just a couple weeks. Next criteria is I want these plants to work for all of us, including beginner gardeners. It's usually beginner gardeners that have a new property and are really looking into what plants can I plant in my garden, right? I mean, I remember when Jason and I first bought our new house, the new construction house, I was seriously Googling what type of plants I should plant, how to plant them, where to plant them. I had a master gardener come and consult with me at my new garden. I had no idea what I was talking about, and having a little bit of guidance for my new garden, my new piece of land, would have been really, really helpful. So a lot of these plants, I want them to be very beginner friendly, nothing difficult. And then the last criteria I have is I want one plant to replace multiple plants. Yes, you can go out and you can buy 12 Super Tunia Vista bubblegum, but can you think of how much space that's going to cover? Basically, I want you only have to buy a couple plants, even if you have to buy them online and get them shipped to you, right? You only have to buy a couple of them to replace a whole carload of other plants that you would have to get otherwise. Okay, so we might as well start with the ultimate bang for your buck plant, Super Tunia Vista bubblegum. It's the OG, it's the most fabulous plant. It can cover 4 feet, 4 by 4 of your garden, one plant, and it will bloom absolutely all season long. And for me in zone 9B, it'll actually overwinter, not guaranteed, but mine overwintered this past season, which is fantastic. So it's technically a temperennial, not quite an annual for me, but it really is a star in the garden. And it's not just Super Tunia Vista bubblegum, there's other Super Tunia Vistas. If you see the name is Super Tunia Vista, what that means, the Vista means, is that it's a very, very vigorous grower, thus a good bang for your buck plant. So there's Super Tunia Vista Jazzberry, there's Super Tunia Vista Fuchsia, there's Silverberry, there's Snowdrift. There are so many different varieties of Super Tunia Vistas, and they're coming out with more and more and more every couple years. So it's really exciting, and it's really a fantastic plant to get at the garden center because you only have to buy one. They're about $10 a pop, one, and it covers the same area as 6 to 10 other bedding plants. So you're going to spend more money on the other bedding plants than you are on one Super Tunia Vista. I have to say the best thing about Super Tunia Vista bubblegum and all the other Vistas is it makes people think you're a good gardener. I mean, truly, it will make people look at you as the crazy gardener lady. I used to plant Super Tunia Vista bubblegum at my old house. I had a front swoop, and I would put only seven of the Super Tunia Vista bubblegums in a 30-foot long bed that kind of curved around the corner. I lived on a corner lot, and everybody in the neighborhood called me the gardener lady, right? They all came and complimented me on my garden, and I will forever credit Super Tunia Vista bubblegum with getting me absolutely obsessed with gardening because it gave me the confidence that I needed to be able to continue and to know that it wasn't me every time that was killing a plant. Maybe it was the wrong spot, or maybe it was the wrong plant, or you know, maybe it was just the weather or something like that. But Super Tunia Vista bubblegum gave me the confidence that I needed to continue on my gardening career. So I would say that is the #1 bang for your buck plant. It is worth every penny, and I would recommend it to all of you who are looking for a good deal for your garden. So the next annual that I have on my list for the best bang for your buck plants in your garden is Augusta Lavender Heliotrope. Now this one, They say it's really great in containers and it's really great in the landscape. In my experience, I am just okay with this plant in the containers, but I love it in the landscape. I absolutely love it in the landscape. They call it not a petite plant. That's how they describe it on the Proven Winners website. It gets 2 feet tall, 3 feet wide. It's a big mounded plant, and it is the most beautiful lavender color. It's absolutely gorgeous and soft and billowy in your garden. And that's why I think it deserves a spot on the best bang for your buck list, because it just has so much impact in your garden. I planted this in the landscape in my center island this past year, and wow, I just absolutely loved it. And it bloomed absolutely all season long, and it even bloomed throughout the winter. So it's perfect. It's a perfect plant to kind of fill up some space. It looks beautiful with Supertunia Vista bubblegum. Great combination, right? But it's also a great plant that can handle different heat conditions. It can be planted in the far north. It can be planted in the humid south. It does great for me here over in the west. It's a fantastic plant. It's hardy zones 8 through 11. So if you're in zone 8 and above, it will be a perennial for you like it is for me. But it is just a fantastic plant, just being an annual, just for one season, because it grows big really fast. It gives you blooms all season long, and it's going to give you that really amazing impact that you want in a new or a blank garden. The next annual I have to talk about, I know I've talked about it a million times. You all have heard me rave about this plant, but I truly think it is that good. It's called Plain the Blues Salvia. Rockin' Plain the Blues Salvia. It is such a fantastic plant, and if you find Mystic Spires Salvia at your garden center, that's a very, very close comparison. They're basically from the same parentage plants. It is just such a fantastic plant. It will get 4 feet tall with the spikes, the bloom spikes, and it'll get 3 feet wide, right? And it blooms nonstop. It blooms and it blooms and it blooms, and you don't have to deadhead it. You can. It'll look better if you deadhead it, but you don't have to, and it'll keep blooming. And one of the things I love about this plant is you can pretty much plant it wherever. It doesn't like full shade. The more sun you give it, the more it'll bloom. But I have planted this plant underneath my crepe myrtle tree at my old house, where it got pretty significant shade throughout most of the day until the very end of the day when it got the blazing hot afternoon sun, and it did perfectly fine. It's just one of those plants that I always have in the back of my mind when I'm planting a new garden, because it fills up the space so beautifully. It looks so good. The hummingbirds love it. I can't get over this plant. It is just such a fantastic plant. It is hardy zones 7 through 10. So if you live anywhere in those zones, this plant, what I would say at the end of the season, you cut it back down to about 6 inches, and then that way the fresh new growth can come out. It's just a great plant. It doesn't get affected by budworms. The only thing that I think it really gets affected by is really early on in the season, maybe like this time, slugs, snails, and earwigs like it. So if you have anything like Sluggo Plus, if you have a problem with those, just putting some Sluggo Plus around the base of it will keep those slugs and snails and earwigs from chewing holes in the leaves. But this is such a fantastic plant that's going to really fill in your space of your new garden, or if you're trying to sell your house or whatever it is, when you're trying to get the best bang for your buck, you only need a couple of these, and it's just going to make such a dramatic impact. I am just absolutely in love with this plant, and it's on every recommended list I ever do. It's just that great of a plant. So the next bang for your buck plant I have to tell you all is one that I was kind of iffy about it at first. Like, I wouldn't say iffy about it. I just didn't recognize the brilliance of this plant until I had it in my garden for 12 months. And this plant is Vermillionaire Kufia, or firecracker plant, or some people call it hummingbird plant. It is just such a fantastic plant because it blooms, for me, in zone 9, it blooms 12 months out of the year. Literally every single day it is blooming. And I have people that can vouch for me for that, because Michael Glassman, my friend Michael Glassman, he plants this plant in his garden because it blooms 12 months out of the year. Now, for anyone below zone 8, this is going to be an annual for you, but I still think it is worth your time and your money to plant this plant in your garden. It gets 2.5 feet tall and 2 feet wide. And although the blooms aren't huge, they give incredible impact because the hummingbirds are absolutely obsessed with this plant. I mean, obsessed with this plant. And when you have something flying around in your garden, when you have the hummingbirds and they're constantly flying around one group of plants, your eyes are automatically drawn to that plant to kind of see what's going on. And that's what happens with my Vermillionaire Kufia. I am always turning my head towards this plant because there's always hummingbirds around there. And then I look and it's these beautiful orangey red blooms on it, tubular blooms that the hummingbirds love. It's just such a beautiful plant and I don't have to worry about it. I don't touch it. I don't do anything with it. I'm just leaving it in and nonstop blooms. Absolute fantastic bang for your buck. Okay, so let's talk about some foliage plants. You know, I love blooms. I think Super Petunia Vista bubblegum is amazing. Plain the Blue Salvia is amazing, but you can't have all blooms in your garden. Sometimes it's nice to have some foliage. And if you want foliage, if you want greenery in your garden, if you have dirt, if you have soil and you have nothing covering that soil and you don't know what to do, I would say immediately go get a sweet potato vine. Go get a sweet potato vine, plant it in your garden. It is immediately going to cover an absolute huge area of your garden. It's almost, I'm going to warn you, it's going to be too much for you. It's going to be so much. But imagine you get a margarita sweet potato vine, right? It is such a beautiful plant. It's this lime green color. It's gorgeous. You plant that over a mound of dirt that you have that you're not sure what you want to do with. You don't want to touch it this year. You're completely focused on the inside of your house and you're not worrying about the outside of your house. If you plant some plain the Blue Salvia in the back, a little bit, 1 or 2 or 3 of the Super Petunia Vista bubblegums, and then one of the sweet potato vine, you are going to have an absolutely huge garden that's going to look beautiful. It's going to look purposeful, like you've done something and you've spent less than $100 easy, right? So it really can make quite a big impact having something like a sweet potato vine. Proven Winners has a lot of different varieties, and I have to say sweet potato vine, Proven Winners has great ones that are absolutely beautiful, but there's some other really good ones just at the garden center as well. One of them that I really, really love in Proven Winners is I love that they have some black sweet potato vines, and sometimes you get some dark sweet potato vines and they bleach out in the sun. A lot of the ones that Proven Winners has, they don't bleach out in the sun. One of the coolest ones, I think, is the Sweet Caroline Medusa. This is a very interesting foliage plant that has these almost like fingers to it, right? Or Medusa hairs, the snakes, right? And it's just the most interesting plant, and it's going to cover so much of your soil and be kind of like that grounding, that ground cover layer to make everything else pop. I mean, think about Sweet Caroline Medusa Black with Super Petunia Vista bubblegum. Just having those 2 plants, really, just 2, just one of each and you're set. You've got a huge area that's going to be absolutely covered with blooms and for not that expensive. So really think about sweet potato vine. It's a fabulous plant. Same thing for coleus. Coleus is another foliage plant that doesn't cover as much area. It's a little bit more upright than sweet potato vine is. Often sweet potato vine is used as a spiller in containers because it spills over, of course. Really beautiful, but you can also plant it in your landscape. And it's an annual, so you don't have to worry about it taking over. Like for instance, a lot of people will plant or used to plant ivy, English ivy in your garden. Don't do that. The reason why they planted English ivy in their garden is because it was a great ground cover that grew really fast and covered areas. But the problem was it was incredibly invasive. And once you planted it, you couldn't get it out. When it comes to sweet potato vine, it is so frost intolerant. It's only hardy in zones 11, right? So once frost hits, it's going to die and you're going to be able to dig it out and you're going to be able to start with something new next season, maybe shrubs or some actual ground covers. But I just think a sweet potato vine is such a great bang for your buck plant, and it can really make quite an intense impact in your garden. I remember at my last house when I first started gardening and I had a lot of spaces I had to cover, I used a lot of sweet potato vine and it looked lush and it looked beautiful. Okay, so now for my last bang for your buck annual that I have to share with all of you. Again, I'm going to do a video on bang for your buck perennials and bang for your buck shrubs. And those 2 are easy because perennials and shrubs, just naturally, they last years and years and years in your garden, right? And so once you plant them, you don't have to plant them again. So it makes it a lot easier. But for those videos, I'm going to be focusing on perennials and shrubs that grow very quickly, give a big impact, and take up a lot of space in your garden. So stay tuned for those. And again, if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments section down below. But for the last bang for your buck annual that I have to share with all of you, it is the wonderful, the beautiful Truffula Pink Gomphrena. Now, this plant, among some of the other plants I talked about today, are also on my Best for the West list. And my Best for the West list, they're all plants that I've grown in my Zone 9 garden that have done really, really well in my climate. But I have to say, there's a lot of overlap, right? Someone who lives in Zone 5 can grow Truffula Pink Gomphrena. And the reason why it's such a fabulous annual is because it grows fast. It grows really fast, and it's really amazing, and it's going to make a huge impact in your garden. Truffula Pink Gomphrena, it will get 2.5 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, and it's big and beautiful and looks like firecrackers. And it really shines kind of at the end of the summer season. You know, it's gonna start blooming early on, but it's going to really take over once it gets really hot, really humid, you know, when everything else is kind of, you know, not as happy. This plant is going to go just be absolutely crazy. And I always make the mistake that I plant too many of these plants in the space. I'm always thinking, oh, I didn't need that many. I only needed 3. I didn't have to plant 6. I only needed 2. I didn't have to plant 4, right? This plant has such an impact in your garden that you just have to plant a couple of them, and everyone's going to be able to see it from the street. You're going to be able to see it from inside. It's going to fill up a lot of space. It's going to be a fabulous bang for your buck plant. Now think about Truffula Pink Gomphrena, some Margarita sweet potato vine, little plain the blue salvia. The combination will be absolutely gorgeous. And yes, they are annuals. They aren't going to overwinter for you. But if you just want to fill your garden up for one season, give yourself the impact that you want for that one season, while you can either save up more money to fill it more, you know, fill it out more with shrubs and perennials next season, or if you have a party, a graduation party, a baby shower, or something like that mid-season that you really need to make impact for and you need to get your garden looking good for, that's where these plants are going to come and make a big, big difference for you and how you feel about your landscape. So anyway, those are my best bang for your buck annuals. Think about that as this is just kind of an initial suggestion. There are so many different varieties of each plant I talked about. There's also so many more great annuals that can make a huge, huge impact in your garden. But this is just kind of a jumping off point for all of you, just to think about, okay, if I have $50, if I have $100 and I want to go out and I want to make a really, really big impact in my garden this year, what can I do? And I would steer you towards these bang for your buck plants. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make an idea board on the Proven Winners site. I'm also going to be compiling perennials and shrubs, so stay tuned for that. It might not be up by the time you guys see this video, but I'm definitely going to do that. And again, leave your suggestions in the comment section down below, because we all have different experiences in our garden, and maybe there's one plant that I accidentally left out that really is quite impactful, and I want to hear about it, and I'm sure everyone else does. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.